Now, today's reading exercise is quite a complex reading exercise. It's taken, I would imagine it's taken from it says here, a newspaper article, but it rather sounds as if it's taken from a novel of some kind. And it uses plenty of descriptive language to tell you about the story that's going on. And of course, that descriptive language will be a real test of your vocabulary skills because let's not forget the aim of this exercise is for you to draw vocabulary links between the answers and the text that we find in the reading exercise. So unless there is a vocabulary link of some kind and a correct vocabulary link given the context, then that answer is not going to be correct. But if we can find that vocabulary, that clear vocabulary link, which also fits the context, then there we'll find our answer. Also, in this exercise, there's one particular question, I think there's just one, which draws on pure context. Just what's going on, the behavior of the people. So we'll come to that in a few questions' time. So first of all, let's have a look at question number 1. The first question is about Rebecca's mood at the start of the story. So let's quickly read through the first paragraph. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, the lull before the storm of Monday morning madness of alarm clocks, traffic jams, and deadlines. The lull before the storm. This means the quiet time before the storm strikes. Very nice expression before you're expecting lots and lots of activity, energy, or whatever it might be. People very often say the lull before the storm. The clock struck 3, and Rebecca's elbow still rested on the arm of the tapestry-covered sofa. With her fingertips, she began caressing, stroking the rough piping that ran along its seams. Simultaneously, the toes of her left foot moved back and forth across the edges of the sheepskin rug. This action Rebecca found comforting. It reminded her of being at home as a child when she used to sit in the family sitting room, her toes playing with the fringes of another kind of rug. Her mother would snap at her to stop it, so of course she did it all the more. So just by reading that, what kind of impressions do you have about the mood that Rebecca is in? Is there anything in there that suggests stress? Is there anything in there that suggests a nervousness? Is there anything in there that suggests anything negative at all? Rather not. Straight away, if we just read the text, we get this feeling of warmth, of comfort, of happiness, that generally things are going okay. And that's important to take that away from the paragraph, because when we have a look at the answers to question number 1, we see straight away that one answer is calm and reflective, and then you've got 3 answers which suggest this feeling of negativity. So cross and irritable, restless and agitated, sad and upset. So all of those 3 answers you can cross off straight away because they don't fit the context. So the answer here is clearly A. And we click on the button, we'll see over my shoulder it says, well done, your answer is correct. Specifically, if we look for vocabulary links for feeling calm, it says, this action Rebecca found comforting. So if you're comforted, you're feeling calm. So there's a vocabulary link there in context. And reflective, if you're reflecting on something, it means that you're thinking about something in your past. And in that sentence, it says, it reminded her of being at home. So we've got clear vocabulary links to the text for question number 1. So for question number 2, it says, what action does Rebecca take with her daughter? Let me just move this out a little bit so we can see all of the answers. And move that down a bit, and we're ready to go. Okay. So let's read through that paragraph and see what we can take away from the context. Rebecca had a sudden whiff of the glue. If you have a whiff of something, it means that you can smell something. Had a sudden whiff of the glue that Katie was applying to make one of her artistic creations. Her daughter was seated on the cushion right in the middle of the room, looking like an island, surrounded by a sea of cardboard cut-offs, sequins, felt tip pens, and pristine sheets of white A4 paper that she had disobediently stolen from her father's study. She should really be working at the kitchen table, Rebecca thought, but I don't have the appetite for the outburst that might happen if my genius daughter at work is disturbed. Every 3 minutes and 50 seconds, Katie got up to replay Kylie Minogue's version of The Locomotion. And I don't blame her, it's a fantastic song. So we get the idea that she's working, she's doing some arts and crafts, she's doing something, perhaps not where she's meant to be doing it. So that's about the activity. But what is it specifically about Rebecca and actions? Well, from reading that, it seems that Rebecca really doesn't do anything at all. It doesn't tell us if she actually took any reactive actions to the fact that her daughter was doing something perhaps where she wasn't meant to be doing it. So she reprimands so if we have a look at the answers, she reprimands, she tells off Katie for making a mess on the floor. No. She asks David to speak to Katie. No, we don't see David until later on when she's talking about cups of tea. She appeals to Katie to play a wider range of music. No, because in the paragraph afterwards it says, why don't you listen to the CD all the way through? So that's the same kind of music, it's not different music. And she does nothing in order to avoid a fuss. This is our correct answer. Where are the vocabulary links? She does nothing. So let's see if we can find she does nothing. And we can find that where it says Rebecca thought, but I don't have the appetite for the outburst that might happen. In other words, she doesn't want to face the trouble that she will have if she stops her daughter. So she doesn't do anything. So from contextually, we see that she does nothing. And in order to avoid a fuss, this is specifically mentioned when it says, don't have the appetite for the outburst. The outburst would be the complaining from her daughter. Fuss is a wonderful English word. Fuss is very difficult to translate into many languages. Certainly into Polish, it's quite difficult to translate. And it means a number of different things. Generally, it means it might mean causing problems. It might mean doing too much. It might mean behaving in an over-emotional manner. It might be behaving too much. It's a word which really fits with context. Very often you might hear someone say, don't make such a fuss. In other words, don't have to do that much, particularly if you go around to someone's house and they're running around making you cups of tea, things like this, and you would say, stop making a fuss, just sit down. So it's a wonderful, wonderful word, and it's a great word to use in context correctly at advanced levels. So for question number 3, what is Rebecca's attitude to the letter lying on the table? So let's scroll on down to that. Here it is here. On the lamp table next to the sofa, she noticed a letter that had been delivered a week ago, advertising exercise classes and a slimming club. She had kept it on the table as a reminder, or perhaps to conjure up the same kind of magical effect that people believe in when they splash out on membership to a fancy gym without going near the place more than once every 2 months. So from this paragraph, we can see that she's got an advertising brochure about exercise classes and the swimming club, and that she's keeping it on the table as a form of some kind of form of motivation, that she thinks that something might happen if she keeps on looking at it. And I'm sure that we've all done something similar in the past, whatever that reminder is. The idea is that you just leave it there and it just reminds you and reminds you and reminds you. And then one day you might do something about it. But anyway, let's have a look at the answers and see which answer fits. The adverbs, I think this is meant to be the adverts, claims are misleading. There's nothing on here about something about the advert telling us lies or anything like that. So that's not the case. She hopes it will prompt her to take up exercise. This sounds promising, but we'll come back to this in a second. It makes her feel more motivated. There's no vocabulary here that specifically says this advert makes her feel more motivated. Rather that it could or should or might, but not that it actually does. So motivated is a word that's there to draw you, but it's not C. She thinks the slimming club is good value for money. Rather not, because if we look at that last sentence, it talks about people signing up but not actually going. So the answer here is B. And that rather fits the context quite nicely. And pretty much the explanation I gave a few seconds ago. She hopes she had kept it on the table as a reminder, or perhaps to conjure up the same kind of magical effect that people believe in. So this is a long way of saying that she hopes that it would have some kind of positive effect on her. In other words, make her go and exercise. So that's our answer for question number 3. For question number 4, when David first leaves the sitting room, Rebecca is. Okay, here we go. This is the relevant paragraph here. And of course, talks about David going to finally giving up and making a cup of tea. He stood up. I suppose it's my turn. Again. He went off into the kitchen while Rebecca, the victor, snuggled a bit further into her sofa. Charlie, who had been asleep on the sheepskin rug, now started up with his own brand of baby chatter. He was attempting to cover the whole repertoire of vowel sounds this afternoon, like a singer performing warm-up exercises. And occasionally he jammed his fingers into his mouth to make a sound approaching an elongated W. So, when David leaves the sitting room, is Rebecca relieved that her baby is awake? Clearly not. Nothing, no vocabulary in the text which says I'm happy or I'm relieved that her baby is awake. Is she surprised? There's nothing there in that text in that paragraph about surprise. Can't be that answer. Is she guilty she's being lazy? Nothing in there at all about guilt. Which means that really through process of elimination, the answer is D. Now, there isn't any specific vocabulary that refers to her being glad, although you could argue that being the victor, in other words, the person who won, you would be glad. But that is a little bit of a stretch if you're looking for vocabulary links. Contextual links, correct, not a problem, I'm with you. But vocabulary links, perhaps not. But certainly we get this idea that she's glad to have got her own way by the fact that she snuggled a bit further into the sofa. So she pushed herself back in amongst the cushions in her sofa. And this is something that you would do if you were happy, perhaps, that you don't have to move and that someone else is doing something for you. So rather, this is a contextual answer that the reason why we get this answer is because of the context. For question number 5, Rebecca is worried when her husband brings in the drinks because. Now, we know from the context that there's a baby on the floor and there's a baby chattering, so the context might give us a few clues here. If someone's coming with hot drinks and there's a child on the floor, then you might think straight away, it might be something to do with danger here. But let's get down to the relevant paragraph. Luckily, the baby was actually ready for a feed, which meant that Rebecca not only saved face with her daughter, but showed that she had no need to feel guilty about sending her husband to make the tea. So that goes back to the answer to question number 4, guilty that she's being lazy. Well, no, because she doesn't feel guilty. We can see that now in this paragraph. David walked back into the sitting room from that very minute, her cup of Earl Grey with its delicate scent of bergamot wobbling in its saucer. In his other hand, he clutched a large mug. Rebecca gave him a warning look. Right, now here we get to our question. Rebecca is worried, and we get the idea from worried, but from this warning look. So Rebecca gave him a warning look. Why did Rebecca give him the warning look? That dared him not to put the cups down on the oak blanket box that served as their coffee table. So she gave him a warning look to stop him from putting the cups down on a particular piece of furniture. Its surface was already scarred by 2 rings, so the surface was already damaged by 2 rings where hot drinks had been carelessly placed directly onto it. So she's giving him a warning look not to do something because the furniture might be damaged. And if we have a look at our answers, there's nothing about tripping over equipment. There's nothing doesn't like the smell of her tea, because there's nothing in there, there's no vocabulary that suggests not liking something. Tea is dripping from the saucer. There's no vocabulary indication of that. He might damage an item of furniture, and there we have our answer. And lastly, for question number 6, the curtain referred to in Katie's bedroom, okay, and let's have a look at the answers now, is identical in design to one from a previous generation, makes a tinkling sound, is made up of unusual colours, keeps out the light at night. Tinkling is this kind of gentle, how would you describe tinkling? A gentle kind of plastic or metallic sound of things banging together. And this might happen, for example, if on the Christmas tree, if you have metal decorations on the Christmas tree and they're banging together constantly, then you might have a tinkling sound. If the rain is falling onto a metal roof, and you might hear it might be described as a tinkling sound as well. So it's this kind of sound where things are rubbing against each other or banging against each other. Okay, let's have a look at our paragraph and see what our answer is. Thanks, you're a treasure. She settled down to feed Charlie, knowing that her tea would be the perfect temperature to drink in one go by the time he had had enough. Where's Katie got to? David said after a few minutes. The answer came from upstairs as they heard the sound of their older child passing through the curtain in the doorway of her bedroom. So she was passing through the doorway. So this is where straight away we're here at question number 6. It was like those beaded curtains that used to be in fashion when Rebecca was a child, but instead of beads, this one was formed from a dazzling collection of pink, purple, and silver shimmering plastic squares. She couldn't remember which one of them had named it the Jingle Jangler, but it was very apt. So let's have a look at our answers. Is it identical in design to one from a previous generation? No, it's not identical. It was like those. It was like does not mean identical, so it's not A. Makes a tinkling sound? Certainly there is indication of this in a couple of places. We've got Jingle Jangler here because of the sound it made. We know that they're made as beads, which might bang into one another and make that tinkling sound. Is it made up of unusual colours? Pink, purple, and silver in themselves are not unusual colours, and if it was unusual, we would have to look for vocabulary that suggested something unusual. Dazzling doesn't suggest unusual. Dazzling just suggests shiny or extremely reflective or noticeable. It doesn't mean unusual, so it's not C. And D, does it keep out the light at night? No indication of that whatsoever in the paragraph. What is our answer? Our answer is, of course, B. So there we go. I hope you managed to get 6 out of 6 on that reading question. If you want me to explain any of my answers in any more detail, then please get in contact either in the live comments or leave a comment under this video later on when it's on YouTube, and I'm happy to get back in with you and go through the answers in a little bit more detail.